The President informs the top officials of the central bank not to shirk responsibility of rebuilding the economy. Former Central Bank Governor Arjun Mahendran has changed his name to Harjan Alexander, revealed in the courts. High-profile criminals directed to the Busa prison. Minister Amravira says that the bus fares will not increase under any circumstances. Most Reverend Father Ernest Poruthotta passes away. Clashes between India and China militaries at the border. 3 Indian soldiers have died.
Now in your top story for tonight, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa told the top officials of the Sri Lanka Central Bank not to shirk responsibility of rebuilding the economy. The President made these strictures during a meeting held at the Presidential Secretariat today. The government had put forward its proposals for economic revival. The Central Bank has yet to extend its support towards these initiatives thus far. The President requested them to explain reasons for their failure. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said that they cannot let the health crisis lead to an economic crisis. He said that not only central banks in big countries but also in small countries have taken many crucial steps. He added that the Federal Reserve in the US has formulated a $600 billion program. Today the central banks in Australia and Japan too have joined, the President added. He further said that similarly central banks in small neighboring countries of ours have commenced planned programs. Speaking to the representatives of the central bank, the President directed their attention to a headline which indicated that the Arab Forum for Environment and Development commits to use a full range of tools to help the economy through unprecedented times. He then said that the authorities have failed to use any tool in this regard. He said that the central bank has not done anything towards this matter. Monetary and fiscal policy has been formulated by the central bank, the President added. He said that these should be done in accordance with the economic policy of the President of the country. He said that the central bank has several tools that can be used. Those tools have to be utilized. However, he said that the central bank does not use a single tool. The President said that the government had asked to release 150 billion rupees to banks. He said that this is not a fault of the businesses. He added that the government owes a huge sum of money to companies due to mismanagement in the past. Let this money be kept as a security for banks to release loans to them, he added, so that the banks could run the economy. He said this is a money circulation process. This is a very simple tactic and is a basic economic principle. The President inquired on the steps the central bank has taken in this regard. He said that the governments have to take the blame for the conduct of the central bank. He said that the central bank has failed to monitor continuously, and he then directed the attention towards the status of the finance companies. He said that the central bank has been entrusted with the responsibility to regularize and monitor these companies. However, the central bank has failed in this task. He further added that the leasing companies too evade their responsibilities. He said that the ETI is not in a position to repay the people. The finance has been closed down without informing, he added. The President then inquired on how to make these payments as there is no appropriate management in this regard. The President said that all at the central bank are economic specialists drawing very high salaries. Therefore, he said that the central bank has a responsibility. The President said that he has presented a mechanism to the central bank. If the central bank is unable to follow it, the President requested the central bank to present their version of the mechanism by tomorrow morning. He directed the attention of the central bank officials on measures implemented by governments of other countries to save their small-scale and medium-scale businesses. However, President questioned whether the same efforts have been taken in the country. He said that this shows as if the central bank is attempting to hinder the government effort and trying to impede the duties of the President. He said that he does not wish to assume this tone if the central bank stood by their duties. He further said that since his appointment to the office 8 months back, he has been requesting the central bank to revive this collapsed economy. He said that he does not want to talk about mistakes of the previous government. He said that the officials were still a part of the bank when the central bank bond scams was executed. He further said that if they could extend support to commit this crime, there is no reason for all of the officials of the central bank to not join hands with him to deliver justice. Public must be made aware of the issue of how the government moves forward with these kinds of officials. The President further said that the people of this country have bestowed a great power on him to build the country. Therefore, he requested all the officials to allow him to build this country. The coronavirus has spread throughout the world. Now he said that it has become a global economic crisis. Due to the firm commitment of our works in the health sector, army, intelligence and the police, our nation was able to return to normalcy before many other countries in the world. The restructuring of the country's economy before it further collapses lies in the hands of the central bank. He requested the officials to lend their support to him to achieve success in this endeavor. Either accept his suggestions in this regard or reveal the strategies of the central bank, he added. In this context, the president said that the central bank has the responsibility to present a proposal to conquer the situation as the top economic experts are rendering their service at the central bank. He said that the central bank officials have failed to extend any guidance or come forward to support him. President Rajapaksa said that if the central bank is not on the same page with his suggestions, then their strategies to revive the economy should be presented to him by tomorrow morning. He informed the officials to submit suggestions on how to strengthen the economy, how to assist banks under these dire circumstances, and how to categorically assist small-scale and medium-scale businesses. He said that if what he says is wrong, they never hesitate to inform him on this regard. Secretary to the President P.B. Jayasundara, Principal Advisor to the President Lalit Veeratunga, Secretary to the Treasury S.R. Artigala, Governor of the Central Bank Professor W.D. Lakshman and officials of the Central Bank were present during the discussion.
Ambassador of Iran to Sri Lanka, Hashim Asjasad, called on Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa today. The attention of the meeting was directed on bilateral relations between the nations. The bilateral relations between Sri Lanka and Iran were commenced in 1962. Iran is the second highest exporting country in Middle Eastern region. The attention was directed in further promoting Sri Lanka-Iran relations at the meeting. Meanwhile, the daily wage of the staff of Employee Provident Fund Board was contributed to the COVID-19 Healthcare and Social Security Fund today. The cheque worth 2 million rupee were presented to Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa by Deputy General Manager Finance of the fund, Vasantha Vimalavida, and trade union representatives.
Now, the Attorney General has informed the Special High Court at Bar today that the Interpol has notified that former Central Bank Governor Arjun Mahendran has changed his name to Harjan Alexander. The court case was taken up for hearing today before the three-member judge bench of Justices Sampath Abekon, Sampath Vijayaratne and Janaki Rajaratne. Former Central Bank Governor is the first defendant cited in the court case filed in relevant to the Central Bank bond scam incident. State Deputy Solicitor General Parlinder Ranasinghe informed the court that the Attorney General had inquired from the Attorney General of Singapore whether an amendment should be brought into the extradition legal process initiated to extradite Arjun Mahendran back to the country. Subsequently, the Attorney General's Department of Singapore has reverted to the Attorney General, citing that such amendment is not required for the extradition legal process. The State Deputy Solicitor General informed that they will make necessary submissions in the near future if an amendment has to be made to the court case in this regard. He further informed that the 10th defendant cited in the court case, Jahan Gardia Punchiheva, is currently residing in Singapore and requested the court to reissue summons for him to appear before the court. The Special High Court at Bar reissued summons for the defendant and postponed the hearing of the court case to November 17th.
Defence Secretary retired Major General Kamal Gunaratne has said that steps have been taken to direct heinous criminals to Bursa prison from yesterday. He also said that devices have been fixed at the Bursa prison premises to prevent inmates from using telephones within the prison. Defence Secretary retired Major General Kamal Gunaratne said that many activities related to underground mafia, including organized crimes and demanding ransom, have been carried out within prison. He said that only 26 out of 79 CCTV cameras were functioning at the Anganukola Palace prison during his recent visit to the premises. He said that this is a concern as none of the cameras have been replaced. He said that the STF is carrying out their duties outside the prison. He said that the telephone calls made within the prison will be hindered with the devices fixed inside the prison. The Defence Secretary said that these activities have been carried out with the help of a certain faction within prison system. He said that a sum of 150,000 rupees were nabbed when the amount was brought into the prison to be given for a notorious criminal who is engaged in drug trafficking after deploying STF for security purposes. He said that the officer in charge of the prison attempted to justify the seized amount while making an attempt to put the blame on the STF, claiming that they have hindered the prison officers from carrying out their duties. Therefore, he said that a renowned fearless officer have been appointed to the Busa prison. He said that Angunukola Palace prison will also be transformed into a similar status as Busa prison in 2 days. Major General Kamal Gunaratne sternly refuted allegations made on social media platforms, claiming that he is attempting to control the state officials. Defense Secretary, retired Major General Kamal Gunaratne said that he has no need to control or manage any other state officials apart from the officials in his ministry. He said that he is not being empowered to act in such manner. He said that he has extended his support only to create a better environment for the people of the country to live an honest and honorary life.
In the meantime, Minister Mahinda Amaraveera emphasized that the government has no intention in increasing the bus fares under any circumstances. He further said that if any entity attempts to increase the bus fares, steps will be taken to cancel their respective bus permits. Minister Mahinda Amaraveera said that the government has no intention in increasing the bus fares under any circumstances. He said that if anyone attempts to increase the bus fares, steps will be taken to cancel their respective bus permits and new bus services will be given that opportunity. However, he said that the government will consider in extending other relief measures for the private bus owners, as the private bus services should also be encouraged and sustained. The minister made these remarks after a meeting at the ministry. Heads of the transportation sector, representatives of central bank and commercial banks were present at the meeting. Minister Amaraveera also said that the travel card will be introduced before August 15th. Minister Mahinda Amaraveera said that under the first phase, all SLTB and private bus services have agreed to engage in transportation services by using the travel card. The minister said that it will be convenient for the passengers to avoid the issues pertaining to obtaining balance money for the bus ticket. He said that 0.15% of the GDP is squandered during transactions. He said that if they could save up at least 0.05% of GDP, it will benefit the economy with billions of rupees during a year. He said that they expect to implement this initiative before August 15th. Now in more local stories, Cinnamon Hotels and Resort has offered a holiday package to health sector heroes on free of charge. This holiday package has been offered appreciating the health services personnel for treating COVID-19 infected patients responsibly and with dedication. The declaration of the package titled Cinnamon Suvaviru Pranama was presented by Chairman of John Keel's Holdings Krishan Balendran to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the Presidential Secretariat today. A total of 1,000 packages were offered for the health services personnel engaged in treating COVID-19 infected patients in several hospitals and their family members under the direction of the Ministry of Health. Those who were selected for the package will be able to spend 2 nights with all facilities in one of the 9 hotels under Cinnamon Hotels and Resort on free of charge. The validity period of this package is from July 1st to September 30th. Minister Pavitra Vanyarachi and several officials were present at the event. Several equipments to disinfect passengers arriving at the Katunayake International Airport and equipments to detect COVID-19 patients worth 45 million rupees were handed over to the chairman of the airport and aviation services, retired Major General G.A. Chandrasena today. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga was also present at the event. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga said that the government is expecting to reopen the airport on August the 1st. He said that the President has shown the need to reopen the Mattala International Airport in parallel to the opening of the Katunayake International Airport in order to expedite the process to repatriate Sri Lankan workers stranded overseas. He said that necessary measures have already been taken within the health guidelines. He added that over 10,000 workers have already been repatriated accordingly and others will also be brought down to the country within the next 1.5 months. Now, a total of 8 COVID-19 patients were reported in the country today. 5 of the newly detected patients have been identified as Navy personnel. The rest of the COVID-19 patients have been identified as returnees from Iran. Meanwhile, a fully recovered COVID-19 patient has shown symptoms of the disease again. The patient is a returnee from Kuwait on May 18th. The percentage of the total number of patients recovered from the COVID-19 increased up to 71.66%. A total of 29 COVID-19 patients have fully recovered and discharged from hospitals. Today, accordingly, a total of 1,371 patients have fully recovered from the disease in the country thus far. So far, a total of only 532 COVID-19 infected patients are still under medical care in hospitals. This is a percentage of 27.75%. A total of 11 deaths related to COVID-19 have been reported in the country thus far, which stands at 0.57%.
More than 8.1 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 patients have been recovered across the world. More than 4.2 million have recovered, while at least 439,713 have died from the disease thus far. The US, Brazil and the UK have reported the most deaths. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization have warned that countries need to stay alert to the possibility of resurgence as new casualties of the cases emerge in Beijing, and more than 100,000 cases of coronavirus are reported across the world every day. USA, Brazil, Russia, India, United Kingdom have topped the list with the most number of confirmed cases in the country, as the coronavirus have affected 213 countries and territories around the world and 2 international conveyances thus far. New Zealand has confirmed 2 new cases of coronavirus, both related to recent travel from the UK, ending a 24-day streak of no new infections in the country. New Zealand lifted all coronavirus restrictions last week, but is keeping its border closed to all travellers except citizen and special cases. Meanwhile, Beijing has imposed coronavirus restrictions on more districts after an outbreak linked to the capital wholesale food market. 22 districts have been deemed medium risk, with local authorities setting up checkpoints, stepping up social distancing and closing schools. City officials reported 27 new cases yesterday, taking the total for the latest spike to 106, as the authorities track down close contact to those known to have the virus. Pakistan has identified 20 cities as most at risk from the rapid spread of the coronavirus and will be implementing strict lockdown in certain neighborhoods. Yesterday, Pakistan endured the deadliest day of the pandemic so far, recording 110 deaths, taking the country's tally to 2,897 people killed by COVID-19 since late February. Cases rose by 4,443 to 148,921. Russia have recorded a total of 545,458 cases in the country thus far, with 8,248 new cases reported with the last 24 hours. The country has also recorded more than 7,200 deaths thus far.
Now, taking a look at the coronavirus situation in Europe, European countries are attempting to save their summer as borders begin to reopen across the continent from yesterday. Holidaymakers and commuters can now move freely as restrictions are relaxed. Close to 2,230,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 patients have been recorded in the Europe region, with over 183,000 deaths. More than 1,186,000 have recovered from the disease in the Europe zone thus far.
European nations eased border controls on Monday as parts of the continent tentatively reopened for business following 3 months of lockdown. That meant Germans being able to escape to holiday destinations, including a lucky few to Spanish islands, and streams of French people heading into Belgium to buy cheap cigarettes. Not everyone is free to move everywhere again though. Mainland Spain remains largely closed for another week, with many quarantine rules still in place, meaning normal travel levels are still a way off. Greek airports are allowing more international flights as the country seeks to salvage its summer. Roads into Denmark from Germany saw jams of 5 miles as the tourists flocked in, whilst Italians headed into France to buy lottery scratch cards. Varying levels of quarantining are still required for passengers arriving from countries deemed to be high risk. For example, a 14-day period of isolation is mandatory for UK residents heading to Greece and France, and that's currently the same rule for any visitor wishing to enter Britain. Before the crisis, an average of 3.5 million people crossed an international EU border every day. That's according to a 2019 European Parliament report. Almost half of them were commuters. European officials hope the lifting of international border controls will allow a gradual reopening to other countries from July and resurrect a tourism industry that has flatlined during the lockdown. Tourism and leisure activities make up almost 10% of the EU economy, and even more in Mediterranean countries, some of which were the hardest hit in recent months.
A taxi driver in New Delhi who lost his livelihood when the pandemic struck has taken up driving a makeshift hearse to transport the coronavirus disease to burial grounds. India has recorded over 344,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus patients in the country and more than 9,900 deaths thus far.
Mohammed Amir Khan normally works as a taxi driver in New Delhi, but with no trade in lockdown, he's taken up driving an ambulance instead. On his first day in the job, he was ferrying coronavirus patients to a hospital for a private firm. A week later, his ambulance became a hearse. In hot and sweaty hazmat suits, the task of burying the dead in New Delhi is a grim one.
The PPE becomes so hot that it becomes difficult to wear for even half an hour. It gets very sweaty, and as you can see, the weather is very hot, and the vehicle also gets heated up. And then there are bodies of COVID-19 patients inside, so one loses their mental balance. We'll faint in just half an hour if we wear the kit and work in it. We feel much more comfortable wearing the gown, but we are always worried that we might be infected.
Amir has kept his ambulance work a secret from his neighbours. Doctors, nurses and other medical staff treating patients across India say they've been attacked and spat at, with some ostracised by friends and relatives as the virus spread. And the work is poorly paid. Amir gets 17,000 rupees a month, about $220, which he says doesn't compensate for the risks.
With this kind of disease going all around, there's always a fear of catching it, and then what could possibly happen to our family. You know, this kind of disease is prevailing all around, not just in India, but the entire world is affected by it. So many people are dying. We also have our own issues. Even though we are driving this vehicle, there's always the fear that we may catch it.
Cases in India are surging, with nearly 320,000 infected. That's 4 times China's official total. At least 9,500 have died so far, and that number is rising every day.
Now, next year's Oscars ceremony has been pushed back by 2 months, the latest big celebrity event affected by the global coronavirus outbreak. The Academy Awards were due to take place on February 28th next year, but have now been put back until April 25th. Organisers have also agreed to extend the eligibility window beyond December 31st, 2020 to the end of February next year.
Next year's Oscars will be postponed by 2 months in another hit to the battered film industry. The Oscars would take place on April 25th next year, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced on Monday. It's only the 4th time the date has been changed in the Oscars' 93-year history. Movie theaters worldwide have been closed since mid-March, and film production has all but grinded to a halt. The Academy also extended the deadline for Oscars eligibility from December 31st to February 28th, after many filmmakers feared their movies would not be finished in time due to the prolonged production shutdown.
I need a tenant.
Eager moviegoers may have to wait an extra couple of weeks for highly anticipated releases this summer. Christopher Nolan's thriller Tenet, scheduled for a July 17th release, has already been pushed back by 2 weeks. And many film industry observers expect Disney's Mulan, also scheduled for a July release, will be delayed as well. Dozens of other releases have been shifted to next year or even later, but Hollywood hopes the big movie theater chains will reopen in the U.S. late next month. Next year's BAFTA awards are following suit and have been postponed by 2 months as well. The Oscars' new date is also expected to prompt the Golden Globes and other awards shows to consider rescheduling their events.
Following weeks of protest over the death of George Floyd, while in police custody, curators from the Smithsonian in Washington have begun collecting artifacts for an eventual exhibit.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
In case you needed further proof that we're at a key moment in U.S. history, the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. has begun collecting artifacts for an eventual exhibit about the demonstrations for racial justice that followed the death of George Floyd. Aaron Bryant is a photography and social protest historian at the Smithsonian's African American History and Culture Museum.
It could be a T-shirt. We are looking at the mask that folks are wearing, saying "I can't breathe." It could be a baseball cap, a button, or protest signs.
One site that provided ample material was a tall fence erected outside the White House, which demonstrators plastered with posters, paintings, and photos to honor African Americans who lost their lives at the hands of police. Many graffiti artists have also created protest murals across the country using boarded-up businesses as their canvases. Bryant says what he sees out on the streets today is vastly different from the protest artwork of the 1960s civil rights era. Back then, most of the signs were created by professional artists and graphic designers.
Today, people are making signs by hand. You know, folks are making signs and running out the door and joining protests. So you have a lot of diversity in what you see.
Another major difference is the global reach of the protests, with artwork dedicated to Floyd popping up in places as far afield as Syria and Paris, even though he died in Minneapolis.
If I had to say, what I see mostly in this art is this idea of community, humanity, people coming together to make positive social change. And I think those are positive messages that will last for generations.
We move in for a short commercial break. We'll be back with more stories. Do stay with us.
Welcome back. Now with more local stories. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has decided to discontinue the importation of handlooms and batik textiles to the country. The decision was taken with the expectation of boosting the local production and attracting new producers to the industry. This was stated during a discussion into the issues encountered by those who are engaged in the garment and the textile industry at the Presidential Secretariat yesterday. Finding additional market opportunity for locally produced ready-made garments over apparels manufactured using imported materials was discussed in length. The promotion of locally manufactured garments will reduce the amount of foreign exchange that goes out of the country. A higher standard in the production of school uniforms and other uniforms is necessary, the President emphasized. It was decided to appoint a team of supervisors for this purpose. President further stressed the importance of providing accessibility to those who are willing to enter the garment industry, which at present is limited to a few. In addition, the establishment of a broader market for ready-made garment manufacturers and local traders through decisions taken in unison and the requirement of a base center conveniently accessible for the international market to purchase locally manufactured garments in bulk were highlighted during the discussion. Furthermore, issues pertaining to the quality and prices of threads and dyes imported for garment manufacturing process was discussed in length. Minister Vimal Veeravansha, Secretary to the President P.B. Jayasundara, Secretary to the Ministry of Industry and Supply Chain Management J.A. Ranjit, Army Commander and the Chief of Defence Staff Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva, Governor Sita Arambepola and several businessmen engaged in the garment industry attended the discussion.
The Ministry of Education says that final decision on the dates of advanced level examination will be taken following the recommencement of schools on the 6th of July. This was mentioned in a statement issued by the Education Ministry today. The statement read, the appeals were sent by certain parties calling for postponement of advanced level examination considering the situation prompted by the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. The decision will be arrived at after taking into account the suggestions and opinions of the students who are to face the exam this year, their teachers and principals, the ministry said further. Accordingly, the dates for the examination will be announced during the second week of July.
Now, the remains of the late Most Reverend Father Ernest Puruthotta is laying in state at the Archbishop's Chapel in Burales Sacred Heart Chapel. The Holy Mass and the final rites of the late Most Reverend Father will be conducted on June 18 at St. Philip Neri Church in Katakurunda from 2:30 p.m. onwards. Late Most Reverend Father Ernest Poruthotta was born on August 31st, 1931 at Poruthotta village in Maravilla. He then ordained on February 2nd in 1957 at the Kotahena St. Lucia's Cathedral. The late Most Reverend Father Ernest Poruthotta introduced oil flowers, punkalas, sand bridges, decorative made from coconut leaves into the religious observances of the Catholic tradition and pandals for holy masses in Catholic churches. He made immense efforts to boost up the Christian Youth Workers movement, and he was also the founding director of OCIC Institute, the Sri Lankan chapter of the International Film Awards Cygnus Awards. Through the OCIC, many veteran film artists stepped into the field of cinema. He also authored many books including The Peraliya, The Gihiya, and Revolution of Labour Associations. His writing flair was clearly depicted through his simple, smooth language skills, and his books were vastly popularized among the general public. Large crowds were gathered at the Burala Archbishop's Chapel to pay their last respects to the late Most Reverend Father Ernest Poruthotta. The remains will be kept at the chapel till 6:30 p.m. tomorrow. Then the remains will be taken to St. Philip Church in Katukurunda, Kaluthara.
The Election Commission has issued a statement declaring the dates pertaining to the postal voting of the parliamentary election. Accordingly, the Election Commission has decided to carry out the postal voting for state institutions, excluding district secretaries, electoral officers, Sri Lanka Police, security forces, Civil Defence Department and health sectors on July 14th and 15th. Any postal voter who were unable to cast their vote on the scheduled dates will be able to cast their vote on July 20th and the 21st at the district election office of the district of their employment. The polling card of the general election will be submitted to the post on July 11th, 12th and 13th. The distribution of the polling card will be concluded on July 29th.
Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna says that the party will succeed in obtaining more than 150 parliamentary seats and secure the two-thirds majority in the parliament at the upcoming general election. Former MP SP Disanayaka made these remarks at a media briefing held in Colombo today. Former MP SP Disanayaka said that former MP Mangala Samaravira, who pioneered in forming the Samagi Janabalawegaya by destroying the UMP, has left the party recently. He said that many influential entities of the UMP have been separated from the UMP due to the politics of former MP Sajith Premadasa. He said that according to the vote percentage acquired by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the party has already secured 126 seats. He added that former MP Basil Rajapaksa has come up with strategies to win Nuwara, Ampara, Trincomalee and the Vavuniya districts. Then he said that the party will be able to win 135 seats. The former MP said that along with the rest of the districts, the party is expected to win 153 seats.
Two media briefings were held by the United National Party and Samagi Janabalawegaya in Colombo today. Remarks were made over the party conflict during the media briefing. Former MP Sujeeva Serasinghe, representing Samagi Janabalawegaya, said that their main concern was UNP leader Ranil Wickremesinghe. He said that even they would be defeated in the elections if those who are with the UNP leader join them in the upcoming election.
පිරිස අනිවාර්යෙන්ම අපිත් එක්ක හිටියත් පරාජය වෙන පිරිසක්. අපේ ඉන්නේ ඔක්කොම ජයග්‍රාහී පිරිස. දිස්ත්‍රික්කවල පළවෙනියෝ ඔක්කොමලා ඉන්නේ අපිත් එක්ක. අපි හැමදාම අවුරුදු 5කට සැරයක් බලයට එන පක්ෂයක්. ඒක නැති කරේ රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා විතරයි. අද එළියට ගිහිල්ලා අපිව චරිත ගාන
Former Ravi Karunanayaka said that he is surprised to observe that some members of the Samagi Janabalawegaya were actually former UNP members with the character assassinations carried out by them. We move on for a short commercial break. Coming up next is international news. On to international news. 3 Indian soldiers have been killed in a clash with Chinese force in Ladakh in the disputed Kashmir region. The deaths are the first in the disputed border area in at least 45 years, are following rising military tension between the nuclear powers. The Indian Army said senior military officials from both sides were meeting to defuse the situation, adding that both sides suffered casualties. An Indian Army spokesman said the deaths were one officer and 2 soldiers. China did not confirm any casualties but accused India of crossing the border in the Galwan Valley. Both sides insist on bullets had been fired in 4 decades, and an Indian Army said on Tuesday that no shots were fired. The clash comes and rising tension between the two powers, which have brawled along the border in recent weeks but not exchanged any gunfire.
Welcome back. Now in sports, the Board of Control for Cricket in India has raised objection against the decision made to hold the Asia Cup 2020 tournament in Sri Lanka. The host nation for this tournament was Pakistan. However, Pakistan has agreed to exchange the hosting of the Asia Cup 2020 tournament with Sri Lanka. President of Sri Lanka Cricket Shammi Silva said that this decision was reached at the Asian Cricket Conference meeting. And that's a wrap of tonight's Primetime News. Until we meet again next time, do take care, stay safe and good night.
Good night.